This old ring from my grandma was on my finger. It looked pretty, shiny and old, but it felt heavy. When I touched the smooth, cool metal, I felt a little sad inside, like a small cloud in my chest. Mark, my boyfriend, was a good man. Everyone I knew said so. He was easy to trust, always did what he said, and was kind to me, just what my parents had always wanted for me. But there was this feeling, deep inside, that something important was missing. Our life together was easy. We had our routines, things we did every day, and we liked each other. We talked about the news and our jobs. We were friends. But that strong, exciting love you read about in books, the kind that makes your heart beat fast, I just didn't feel it with Mark. Sometimes, when we held hands, it felt nice, but not like fireworks. I wondered if this was just how love was for some people, quiet and comfortable. But a small voice inside me whispered that there should be more. My parents were very happy about Mark. He will take such good care of you. Amelia, Mom would say with a big smile, her eyes already seeing my safe and settled future. My friends thought I was so lucky. Mark had a good job, a nice apartment, and he was always thoughtful. He looked good too, tall and with kind eyes, even if he was a little quiet. I would nod and smile when they told me how perfect he was for me. But inside, I felt a little bit like I was acting. How could I explain this quiet sadness? This feeling that I was living a life that wasn't really mine. A life planned out carefully by other people, who loved me but maybe didn't know what I truly needed. It felt like I was wearing a dress that was the right size but the wrong color. It fit, but it didn't feel like me. A few weeks before the wedding, I really needed to get away. All the talk about flowers and dresses and seating plans was making my head spin. I went to a small bookshop downtown. It smelled of old paper and coffee, a calm place. I wandered to the back, to the poetry section, looking for something to lose myself in. That's when it happened. I turned a corner too quickly and bumped right into someone. A tower of books beside him wobbled and then crashed to the floor with a loud thump. "Oh, I'm so incredibly sorry," a warm voice said, and there was a slight accent I couldn't quite place. He knelt down quickly to help me gather the scattered books. Our hands brushed, and when we finally looked at each other, really looked, it was like a little spark jumped between us. A sudden feeling I hadn't felt in forever. His name was Raphael, and when he smiled, 2 little lines appeared at the corners of his eyes, and it made his whole face light up. Raphael was an architect. He was visiting our city to look at some old buildings. He loved history and art, and he talked about them with so much excitement. We talked for what felt like just a few stolen minutes, but when I looked at the clock later, I realized it had been almost an hour. We talked about poems we loved, paintings that moved us, and the secret dreams we sometimes had late at night. I found myself telling him things I hadn't even admitted to myself before. Those quiet worries about the future and the secret longings in my heart. There was this easy way we understood each other. A connection that felt both brand new and strangely familiar. Like meeting a friend I didn't know I had. When it was time for him to leave, we said goodbye. But we looked at each other for a long moment. There was a warmth in his eyes, and it left a strange, fluttery feeling in my stomach, and a tiny crack in the carefully built wall around my heart. Back in our apartment with Mark, everything felt different. The air seemed heavier, the colors duller. Our talks felt polite, like we were just going through the motions. "How was your day?" "Fine, yours?" "Good." That was often the extent of it. The quiet between us used to feel comfortable. A sign that we knew each other so well we didn't need to fill every moment with words. But now, that silence felt heavy, filled with all the important things we weren't saying. I kept replaying my conversation with Raphael in my head, His voice, the way he looked at me, the things he said. The warmth of his smile was a persistent memory, a little light in the growing darkness of my doubts. I started to feel this nagging feeling, deep down, that I was on the wrong path, that I was settling for something less than what my heart truly wanted. One evening, I was trying to help Mark organize his desk. He had a lot of old papers and things stuffed into boxes. I reached into one and pulled out a small, faded photograph. It was of Mark with a woman I didn't know. They were standing close together, their faces almost touching, and they both had these big, happy smiles. When I asked him about it, holding the picture in my hand, Mark's explanation sounded too quick, too casual. Oh, that was just someone from college. A long time ago. Nothing important. But the way he said it, avoiding my eyes, the slight tightness in his jaw, made me feel really uneasy. A tiny seed of worry, which had been small before, suddenly started to grow bigger in my mind. Who was this woman? Why had he hidden the picture? What else didn't I know? I knew I couldn't just ignore what had happened. I needed to know the truth, or at least try to find it. Carefully, subtly, I started asking some of our mutual friends about Mark's past, about his relationships before me. At first, everyone just said what a great guy he was. But when I pressed a little, asked about college, about serious girlfriends, little whispers started to emerge. They told me about a serious relationship he had in his last year of college. A girl he had apparently been deeply in love with, but it had ended badly, and he never really talked about it. Mark had always been a private person, not one to share his feelings easily, but now his quietness felt different. It felt like he was deliberately hiding something important from me, building a wall of silence around his past. The more I heard these little pieces of information, the more uneasy I felt. It felt like it was meant to be like some kind of sign when I ran into Raphael again. It was at a local art gallery opening. A crowded room filled with people and soft music. I saw him standing near a painting, looking thoughtful. When he turned and saw me, his face lit up with that warm smile I remembered. Our conversation started as easily as it had ended before, like no time had passed at all. He talked about his travels, the way the light in different countries changed the colors of the buildings, his quiet observations about the people around us. I found myself completely drawn to his genuine excitement about the world, the way he seemed to see beauty in everything. He was so open, so alive. And when he looked at me, I felt like he really saw me, the real me under all the layers of expectation and obligation. For the first time in what felt like a very long time, I felt truly understood, torn between this unexpected, growing pull towards Raphael and the unsettling discoveries I was making about Mark. I felt like I was being pulled in two different directions. I knew I needed to be honest, both with Mark and with myself. I decided to confront Mark again. I started gently, asking more directly about the woman in the picture and the phone call. He still didn't want to talk about it, his answers vague and dismissive. But I kept asking, my voice growing stronger, more insistent. Finally, cornered, with nowhere else to go, he told me the truth. The woman in the photograph, the one who had called, it was the same person. He admitted that he had never fully let go of her, that they still talked sometimes. He insisted it was just friendship, that it didn't mean anything, but the look in my eyes, the pain I couldn't hide, told him everything. My heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. The foundation of our relationship, the one built on comfort and doing what we thought we should, started to crack, then crumble. The unspoken agreement we had lived by, the quiet understanding that we would build a stable, predictable life together, now felt like a betrayal. I realized that I had been so focused on living up to everyone else's expectations, my parents, my friends, even Mark in his quiet way, that I had completely ignored the quiet whispers of my own heart. The small voice inside me that knew something was wrong. The thought of putting on that white dress, of walking down the aisle towards Mark, now felt like a suffocating prospect. Like I was walking towards a life that wasn't truly mine. The joy I was supposed to feel about my wedding had completely disappeared, replaced by a heavy dread. Sleepless nights became my normal. My mind was a constant battlefield of thoughts and emotions. The security that Mark offered, the promise of a stable and comfortable future, was a strong pull. The fear of disappointing my parents, of going against everything they had hoped for, was a heavy weight on my shoulders. But then I would think about Raphael, about the way he made me feel, the way he saw me. And then I would think about the alternative, a lifetime lived without that spark, a lifetime where my heart remained untouched, a quiet, empty space. That thought was a chilling certainty, far scarier than the uncertainty of a new path. I knew I had to make a choice, a difficult and potentially painful one, but one that finally put my own happiness, my own true feelings first. It felt like I was standing at a crossroads, and both paths looked scary, but one felt like walking towards the light, and the other felt like staying in the shadows. The wedding invitation sat in a neat stack on my desk in the living room. Crisp white envelopes with elegant script, each one a promise of a future that now felt completely wrong. I picked one up, my fingers tracing the embossed names, Amelia and Mark, together forever. The words felt like a lie. With a deep, shaky breath that caught in my throat, I set the invitation back down on the pile. It felt like a physical weight. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't send these out. I couldn't go through with this. The thought of sealing those envelopes, of sending those promises out into the world, filled me with a sense of panic. It felt like I would be sealing my own fate, a fate of quiet unhappiness. The invitations remained there, a silent testament to the difficult decision I was about to make. They were promises that would now remain unfulfilled. I asked Mark to sit down with me. My hands were trembling slightly as I took a deep breath. I looked at him, really looked at him, maybe for the first time without the filter of what everyone else wanted. My voice was soft but firm, filled with a newfound clarity and resolve. I told him about the emptiness I had tried to ignore for so long, about the unexpected connection I felt with someone else, someone who made me feel alive. I also told him about the unsettling truths I had uncovered, the secrets he had kept. The conversation was raw and difficult, filled with hurt and confusion on both sides. There were tears and moments of strained silence. But beneath it all, there was a sense of overdue honesty. We talked for a long time, late into the night, finally laying bare all the unspoken feelings and misunderstandings that had grown between us. It was painful, but it felt like the first step towards something real. Even if that something wasn't together, the wedding was officially called off. There were more tears, more difficult conversations, especially with my parents who were confused and disappointed. I spent a lot of time alone, thinking, trying to understand what I truly wanted. The future felt wide open, an empty road stretching out before me. My connection with Raphael was still new, a fragile possibility that I held gently and carefully. We talked, we spent time together, and with each meeting I felt more and more like myself, like I was finally breathing freely. I didn't know what the future held for us, if it would be a lasting love or just a brief, bright moment. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of lightness, a sense that I was finally on a path of my own choosing, guided by the quiet longings of my own heart. The possibility of true love, which had once felt like a distant fantasy, now felt like a real, tangible hope, a light at the end of a long, dark tunnel. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time it felt like my road. Thank you for watching. What did you love about this story? Drop your thoughts below at the comment section. I hope with this simple English story, you will be able to learn English. Subscribe and like this video for more stories.